soon a population growing in the direction of 9–10 billion. And so in that context, having a society built where waste is still waste is not sustainable. We have to upgrade what everything is waste into a circular carbon. And so my question to ISPT is, how do we accelerate, how do we make it bigger, faster and more impactful, so that we create for the next generation, people after us, a legacy that this industry is vibrant, is successful and committed to a circular economy. Thank you so much and take care.
Yeah, two new experts on the matter at my table, and one is in the Zoom, I think. The Program Director, Circular Plastics Initiative at ISPT. Ronald, are you there in the Zoom?
Yes, I am.
Ah, can we see you as well, or just hear you? Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello.
So, 2 years ago, I met the discoverer of the plastic soup, Ronald, Captain Charles Moore from the United States, and he told me about the nanoplastics that is going to be all over the world. I couldn't sleep for a whole weekend. How optimistic are you that we're going to solve the plastic mess we're in? Just a question from me to you.
I think eventually we will be solving this mess, but at this moment we are still in the midst of it. I think in Western Europe we can try and maybe try to educate, especially in relation to collection systems towards the rest of the world, because I think there the issue starts with the pollution of the seas and the oceans. So I think that's the way we, from our perspective, can help there. But eventually, I think the collection, where it starts with getting the waste from the streets and contained in more centralized processing areas, I think that's the way ahead.
Yeah, thanks. My second guest is Program Director Industrial Fluids Processing at ISPT, Kees Roest. Welcome, Kees. The focus and urgency on fluids, is that already high enough, do you think?
Yeah, I think industries are processing, so they are processing fluids, liquids, gases. So it's their core business very often, so they have attention to it. But to become circular, we really need to take actions, and we really need to drive these innovations to make more sustainable processes.
Yeah, but when you hear about the nanoplastics and Vierstra throwing granulite in public waters, I think it's sort of a miracle that we have this brilliant drinking water from our taps every day. So is there already, with the normal citizen, an awareness that fluids are important?
Maybe not. As normal citizens, we are living our lives, doing our things, and you're not always thinking about the processes behind. I'm not sure if that's really necessary for everybody to think about that, because it's also very convenient to live a way like that.
Yeah.
But some people need to pay attention, and for the microplastics, of course, it's also a topic that's already taking a lot of science and technology, a lot of innovations, but it's quite difficult to change situations, as we discussed before in the previous session. So we really need to speed up these things and try to bring these innovations to the market, to the application.
So I'm extra glad you're here right now.
Okay, nice.
A fluid expert. My third guest knows a lot about circularity. He's on a personal mission, may I put it that way, to help the economy to be future-proof. A program leader, circular economy at the NGO Natuur and Milieu. He works together with companies and occasionally with governments and science. He's also involved in the Circular Plastic Initiative, so that's very good too. Quite a lot for one guy. Welcome, Jelmer Vierstra. Jelmer, why is it important for ISTP to work with, for example, an NGO like Natuur and Milieu?
Well, I think what is important when you want to make progress in becoming more sustainable, we need really solid and smart policies. And usually politicians react on societal debate, and societal debate, especially around plastics, is not always as precise in what we need currently. So we need to help them, and when business and NGOs have a sort of a common idea of where we should go, then usually politicians listen.
Yeah, and does it work so far? Because there's all kinds of fake news you can say now, and you can make your own truth, and this is rather difficult for NGOs, I guess.
Sure, I want to refer to the conversation that you had before, because well, I think if we want a sustainable future, polluter pays. That's the important principle, and I think our Central Bureau of Statistics this morning presented a study where the main conclusion is polluter doesn't pay in the Netherlands.
At all?
At all.
No.
So if we want bio-based resources for plastics to become competitive, we have to put a price on fossil fuels. If we want, if we want recycled content to be competitive, we have to put a price on fossil resources for the chemical industry as well. I think in the previous conversations you also talked about speed, and I think they blamed politicians for the lack of speed, and I think in the Netherlands, in France, what we don't have in France is the polder model.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, when
because
we
don't have any polders.
Exactly.
Right.
So when we discuss policies, we always ask to business, what do you think about these policies? And that takes ages because business never want polluters to pay.
Yeah, it's true. So it's better to have the China model. There's just one guy telling everybody what to do, but well,
French model is good enough.
Okay, let's go in between the French model. We are quickly running out of raw materials. I think that's not very new for you. I was talking to Professor Harald Sverdrup from Norway, and he painted a pretty grim picture. So we have to become circular quite rapidly. But still, a lot of products are designed for an end use. How can we change that for all three of you? So, Ronald, if you want to join in, how should we change the whole idea that material is valuable, and do we need raw material tax? Do we need cheaper labor to deconstruct stuff in a circular economy? What is the solution?
Maybe in the end we need almost everything, because we really need to hurry up with raw materials, because the raw materials indeed, some of them are really depleting very fast. And with the current rate we are living in the world, it's not possible to continue like that. So also for future generations we need to change this system and design for circularity. And that needs efforts from all kinds of organizations, all kinds of people, actually all of us together. We need to work together.
But we've been saying that for quite a few years now, right? And the urgency is growing. So is a carbon dioxide pricing, is that the first step we really have to implement now right away, or what would be good steps?
Carbon pricing is one thing, but it's like the taxation or giving pollution a price is much wider than just a CO2 tax. For instance, with packaging, but because that's what we are referring to now, we have extended producer's responsibility, which is European legislation, which makes companies such as Unilever and Albert Heijn responsible for dealing with the packaging post-consumer as well. Well, currently they're paying 220 million euros a year. It's expected to grow to 350 million euros a year. And what do you see happening? They participate in a plastic pact. They start to redesign their packaging because they have to pay if they don't become circular.
And is it really working? Because since the COVID crisis, we saw the recycled plastics pile up in industry plants because nobody wants to use it. It's far too complicated. The world change are fucked up, so it's really complicated.
So just EPR isn't doing it. What we also saw because of the COVID crisis, fossil fuel prices dropped. And this is what you want to substitute in a circular economy with recycled content or with bio-based content. So if we don't give a price to fossil raw materials, then it won't happen.
It won't happen.
And we don't have to use this money to give it all to Wopke. We can also use this money to subsidize bio and to subsidize recycled content. You know?
That's very good, because I was planning only to take money from Wopke.
You should also stimulate. If you stimulate the good behavior and punish the bad behavior, that in general works. Even stimulating the good behavior works even better than punishing the bad behavior.
Yeah, so, because then you feel sort of punished. And if you just award good stuff, that's always better.
Exactly.
Ronald, what do you think?
What I also would like to bring in is, we talked about design for recyclability, or design for recycling. And I think that is also something which is very important. For two reasons. Because if you are doing that and you put it on your package, then also the consumer becomes much more aware of this this important step to get circularity into the design of the products. And secondly, by doing so, you will really also address this towards the processes that are in development and will be further developed to get those products also recycled.
Yeah.
So I think that is also a very, very important step to work on, and I think the industry has a duty there, together with academia, to come up with good principles of design for recycling.
Yeah, and tell the story, obviously.
Yeah, that's very important. So that's why we also have these kind of days to bring the community together and to speak about these new innovations. So that's also very important. Now with the COVID crisis, sometimes a bit more challenging, but with this online, it works.
Here we are.
Easily.
So, but if you look at what's going on right now for all three of you, is it possible to find a good business model already for a circular process industry, or do we miss stuff? What do you think?
Well, I would like to refer to what Ronald said about putting a brand on a consumer packaging and showing them, hooray, this has recycled content, or hooray, this has bio-based material, and you should be willing to pay a bit more for it. I don't think that's the way we want to go. We don't want to have the circular economy or a world be dependent on a consumer that is willing to pay a bit more. We have to put a price on what is not right and use the money to subsidize what we do want. And obviously it's good to communicate with consumers because we need this awareness, but don't expect a transition in our economy to be driven by consumer desires.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I agree for a big part. So I said you have
not
to
really a big part, because you said you have to
stimulate. Yeah, but he also
says you have to find them.
He said
and
find
you
the bad
bought
ones.
something terrible. So I feel a slight difference.
Yeah, I also noticed in the beginning, but then he said also use the money that you that you obtain from finding the bad behavior and the bad producers, for example, and use that money to stimulate innovation and to stimulate the good behavior. So in the end, you have both of them and bring them together.
Well, it's a big dogma in the Netherlands. We have this Zalm norm where you should not confuse the money that is brought to the government with what you spend it on. But I think that's a thing that we have to break through in the Netherlands.
Right. Especially for things like this.
Exactly.
Because we need a breakthrough and we have to scale up and speed up.
And it can work everywhere. If we have it on pest control in agricultural production, we want to shift from pesticides to more biological pest control, fine chemical pest control, and give subsidies to biological pest control. It works everywhere.
I just with a fruit person in the Betuwe, and he's doing all kinds of experiments just on his own because he likes to make a better world. Stories like that are fantastic as well.
Yeah.
To show it's not always about money. It's about people trusting each other and seeing that what we are doing is not right, and we have to change and just start changing. And sometimes people will just throw money after you because they like you so much. What about that?
That's also bottom up. So sometimes you have initiatives that come from individuals, and they are very nice examples. And
but in the end, we have to help these individuals because this is a sort of an idealistic fruit grower, I guess.
Yeah.
But in the end, we have to make sure that it's economically profitable to do it the way he wants to do it.
I think you all know the book Drawdown. 100 circular cases all around the world. Do you know it? Or you should get the book, Drawdown. You know what drawdown is, I guess? When the whole world sucks more carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere than we actually put up there. And there's 100 cases, circular cases, all around the world. And when you go through the book, you're totally inspired stuff that is already there. So I think in the main stuff, people like Albert Heijn and Unilever, I've been there quite often to talk about plastics, tell the story, what you're struggling with, what you want to change, and people will help you in the end.
Yeah, storytelling is very important, so especially if it are inspirational stories. So books like that, I didn't know this particular book, but there are many examples, of course, of good behavior.
I'll give you a copy.
Okay, nice.
This is the new Bible for circularity. So, Ronald,
yes.
You still there?
I'm still there.
Oh, good. What do you think is the next step we should do to actually get the circularity going? Because we want to stop talking about it. We want to get in real action mode.
Well, I think what we're already trying to do, I think, is a step ahead, and that's trying to collaborate with the whole chain. So you have to involve the whole chain, and what we experienced when we started this is that there is a lot of different language at various steps in that chain. Mm-hmm. So first you have to be aware of that and connect the various players in that chain and try to get them to talk the same language. That was already quite a step, which took us about 1 year. In a setting with about 15 different players. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something is important to address and then work further. Try to get the confidence within such a group, but also do the storytelling about that and give good examples of what can work, but also what does not work.
Yeah. And in your analysis of the last year, of the last period, what are the things that really are slowing it down? What is difficult to accomplish?
It becomes, I think, difficult when you talk about the products of a company. Or if you target it towards a specific process, you have to try to work on the whole picture and try to put things as much as possible into that perspective. Mm-hmm. That's what I think is always important.
I see Jelmer nodding.
Well, it's an interesting question, because if you want to make a product more circular, then obviously you can make a dashboard from recycled content in a car. Uh-huh. But do we want a circular car, or do we want resource-efficient mobility? We want to share cars. They don't work at all for 97% of the time. And so if we focus on products, then we miss a lot of the innovation possible and a lot of the enthusiasm of entrepreneurs that really want to do things differently.
It's sort of the old discussion of sustainability, making the old system sustainable or throwing away what's not good and come up with something new, which is always a bigger picture, and you have to make it more complex, but then the reward is far bigger. Yeah, which is
a systemic change, and for that we need to work together again. So collaboration is very important. Mm-hmm. It's not only the commercial companies, but also governmental institutions, knowledge institutes, and in the end, all of us citizens, we need to adapt to these new systemic changes.
And sometimes you need people like me just for the naming and shaming. It's always very nice. And then I like
my
that.
Job, but
yeah, your job too. We sort of alike. That's why I like it very much. We go to Nathan. Nathan, are there any questions?
Yes, there are questions. Thank you for coming back to me. Let's start off with the first question is from Erin Kennedy, and she asks, expanding the recycling of conventional plastics, pushing for bioplastics, or pushing for alternative materials. So you have three choices: recycling, bioplastics, or alternative materials. What do you think is the best pathway forward in terms of impact, and does this align with consumer perception?
Well, who wants to comment on the matter?
I can say something from my mind. Mm-hmm. I'm not working so much with the plastics, maybe with the nanoplastic problem and the microplastics. But I think at the moment we have to do everything. So we cannot only work with alternative materials, because then we need other materials and it needs to be invented, and this whole chain needs to be
checked and rechecked, and it takes forever.
So we need to do both, or all three of them. So the plastics that we already have produced here on the table are also several examples. So these plastics are already there. So it would be a waste to throw them away or to burn them.
Yeah, to burn them.
Yeah. So I think we also need to make use of these kind of plastics. I don't know if that agrees with you.
Jelmer?
Well, to a certain extent, I was missing one solution, because sometimes it's not the material that you make it of, but for instance, in the Netherlands, we produce 3 billion coffee cups a year. Yeah. Specifically designed to use them once and then burn them again. So it doesn't matter what type of material you make them from, or if you make them from a certain material, plastics is pretty much okay, but we need to reuse coffee cups.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real
or make them from a material, as soon as you burn it, that it will explode or something. So that you can't burn it.
Instead of fireworks.
Yeah.
Because that's forbidden.
But I know what you mean. So this is, again, a bigger perspective, and look at it differently.
But I think what the question comes from, obviously, is now we see that society sort of dislikes plastics, and then we switch to paper cups with a plastic foil, and is that helping? No, it's not helping. Worse.
Yeah.
So usually having plain, non-colored plastics is pretty much okay, because we can recycle it pretty good.
But then we should.
And we should.
Right. Ronald, any comments?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we should focus on all the things. And recycling is certainly one of the things. And again, design for recycling there is very important, as what you just mentioned, with the example of the foil on a cup.
Yeah.
So that's and bio-based eventually will also be important, because we will have to need carbon material, extra carbon material, to become and to stay circular.
Yeah.
So I think in that respect, also the carbon coming from bio-based is also very necessary, and can also play a very important role there.
Yeah, and good facts are good too, because Captain Charles Moore from the Plastic Soup told me that the inside foil of a soup can, as soon as it hits the ocean water, it will dissolve into nanoplastics, and these are the sort of oestrogen imitation plastics. So the hypothesis now is that a part of the obesitas in the world comes men and women holding pre-pregnancy fat to the body because of these nanoplastics.
Okay.
Kees?
nice story.
Yeah.
It's also storytelling.
Yeah, and then now I don't want any canned soup anymore. Simple as that. Yeah. So, Nathan.
Refuse is better always. So
you see?
If you don't use it, then it's better. And we eat much too much. That's maybe also a cause of obesity.
Change your food pattern, for crying out loud. Final question, Nathan.
In case Haringa, who asks, how can we influence customer perception when it does not align with reality? And gives an example. The perception that paper is always better than plastic, or the perception that biological is always better than chemical, or more accurately synthetic.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on as well, but it's a good question.
I think there's an important task for NGOs such as us. For instance, we had this trend in the Netherlands where companies would switch to biodegradable plastics because of this plastic pollution problem that we all well, it is there, but biodegradable plastics don't solve that, because they don't biodegrade under natural circumstances. So please, this is my job, to inform the people that we need real solutions.
Get the facts right, get the real solutions. Yeah, right.
And the facts are not always that simple, so that's a difficult task, I think, also for scientists, for knowledge institutes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
I'm really put. What is that, Ronald?
Yeah, and in that respect, I think a lot of people also, and especially also in the scientific world, and also in the marketing world, they talk a lot about LCAs, life cycle analysis, assessment. And I think there also needs to be quite some development to get the facts right. Yeah.
Good. Final words. I thank my three guests very much.